and it'll be timely. We will be doing this getting it out there before we head to San Antonio, where you can find Paul, who's also here today. How's it going?
I'm doing well. Yes, I will be here. I will
You
be
will
in San
be
Antonio.
easy but hard to find in San Antonio. Like I actually was reviewing your schedule. Um, and I would actually say yours
Yeah.
might be the one person who I'm like, it could be worse.
Yeah, I actually my business partner identified that it's a risk. Like what if I get sick? Like there's a lot going on over the course of those 3 days, and knock on wood, let's just hope that I could power through and be at my best, because there's a lot happening at
They
all
are.
hours of
And
the
I will,
day
without going
in
into
San
too much
Antonio for
detail
me.
here, maybe
So
for another time, life-changing time, people have been known to fall ill near your booth. So, um, it's
it
happened. We
it's
won't mention
happened.
who on this episode, but it is definitely one of the 3 of us, and Josh wasn't there. Um, so so and we do have Josh Lemon with us. How's it going?
Hi, it's great to be here.
So that I
It's
don't
going
mess it
great.
up, I'm super stoked I was able to pronounce your last name correctly. Um, Give us your background, your bio, and what's going on right now with you.
Yeah, so I lead total rewards at Residio, and basically I have all of the compensation and benefit strategy for over 30 countries that we have employees in. I originally started my career in finance, and I kind of made my way into compensation via the sales compensation work that I did as part of finance. And then when I fully moved over into compensation, I started owning the sales incentive design process and broad-based compensation, that sort of work. Then in 2020, my role changed when I went to Jostens, and I ended up owning the total rewards programs, and I ended up having the benefits responsibilities at that time. And now I'm at Residio. Been here for the last 3.5 years.
yeah. And Residio is one of those companies that people probably don't know the name, but I almost guarantee that I'll make up a number. 75% of the people listening to this in the US have a product in their home, and they're just not even aware of it. Maybe I made
Right.
that up. Maybe it's not
No,
quite that big, but it seems pervasive for me staring at my first alert smoke detector, literally
right.
right above
Yeah.
my head.
If you have a first alert smoke detector or a Honeywell thermostat on your wall, you have a Residio
Okay.
product.
Exactly.
Well, 2
So,
things.
yeah.
I think one, also, what percentage of people have a Josta? Is that the class ring? Yeah, like, what
That's the
percentage?
class
Yeah,
ring.
I mean,
I
I got
know.
one of
That's
those
right.
in a
Yeah.
box
I guess
somewhere.
what percentage of people have one, followed by what percentage of people still wear them? Um, did you
Yeah.
think you were gonna be, to our theme that always comes up in this, at what did you ever think you were gonna be in HR when you went to finance, like in total rewards, or was that a dream of yours?
I'll be honest, I didn't even understand when I was leaving college that compensation or total rewards work even existed. But I definitely
We
love
need to
being
have
here. Yeah.
what would be interesting is a small survey at some point. Like we should do it through World at Work of how many people thought they were going to be in comp. Um, Not meant right, and it'd be super small.
Yeah, like that won't get
That
picked
won't get
often.
picked often, but the number of people who are thankful they got there into the comp space would be
Yeah.
a really interesting thing because there are a lot of jobs I think people fall into that you're like, this is not what I wanted to do, nor do I like it. And I think comp compared to a
Yeah.
lot truly is I didn't know existed. I can't believe I'm here, but I'm kind of stoked I'm doing this for a living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's
So the
accurate for
speed
sure.
round of questions. Are you ready? All right. Are you a coffee or
I'm
tea
ready.
person?
I am a tea drinker all the way, and I am
Oh,
a tea
oh, wow.
snob. Yes.
Didn't even have to
We
ask.
didn't even have
So
to
what is the
ask.
flavor? What is
Oh,
the brand and flavor of choice that makes you a snob?
so I really like green teas, and not all green teas are going to make the cut. Like, if you really want to impress me and we're in the US, a Rishi tea is going to go a long way. Like a jasmine Rishi tea is really, really fantastic. And if we are in Europe, an Iris tea, the Zona Asians one, fantastic. And, I have other favorites as well, but I don't want to, come off
Oh
as too
no,
much of a
we're all
snob.
down for that. Have you been to the Azores? So you gotta go. They
I
grow tea
haven't.
out there for
Mm-mm.
some weird reason, and you can go to the tea. And I'm a coffee and coffee snob. I am not a tea. I married into the tea
Um,
side, and I'm yet to
sure.
convert her. Is how I would look at it. But we went there and went to the tea
Gotcha.
things and the tasting because they grow tea there. That's whatever temperature stuff goes on there. There's a couple of tea
Yeah.
growing things, so it was kind of cool to see. But okay.
I think you're the first tea snob. We've
No,
had
you know who's
Oh,
several
the tea
coffee
snob?
snobs
Was it
on.
Warren? Had the specific who was the one? Yeah, yeah, I mean, maybe we tried to forget Warren. We're
You're
put it
right.
on here. But,
Yeah.
I'm happy to copy him.
You're right. We did have one other,
Specific
like, very
brand, but in
specific.
general, we haven't had many, and if
Yeah.
they are tea, they're kinda like, "Eh, whatever." So it's good to have,
Yeah.
another person like that. Are you, range penetration or
well,
compa
I
ratio?
need so I don't use the word range penetration or the phrase, but I am a
Okay,
position and range
okay, that
kind of
counts.
a
That's the
guy.
same difference. You have a weekend away.
Yes.
Would you rather go to a posh resort type of event or out in the woods camping?
Yeah. So my kids are going to be disappointed in this. I mean, I do go camping with them, but I am a posh. If I get to choose, it's a posh resort on the
Well,
beach,
mad
something like
props to you
that.
as a
Yeah.
dad,
I mean, as a
first of
Minnes
all, because I think
Yeah.
getting someone like me who would prefer to be out in the woods and for me to rough it and take one for the team at a posh resort is not the same as having somebody who likes a posh resort and go take one for the team in the woods. I
Yeah.
will admit that.
Right. Yeah.
But as a
Well,
Minnesotan, you're on brand for, yeah, we
right.
do it, even though
Yeah.
it's not sort of my preference. Like,
Yeah.
of course you go camping. Like, that's
Yeah.
just the way it
Well, we'll
works.
go a couple of times this year. It's already on the schedule. So, and I will smile and
It
enjoy
didn't
it
come
the
out of
whole
your mouth
time.
with a
But
smile, by
when I
the way.
wake up in the
You
morning,
actually said the way you said it was actually, "We'll do it a couple times." Like, check, check.
Yeah.
it's the waking up in the morning, the first 20, 30 minutes, in the morning. That's the roughest. The rest of the time, I'm
Till the
enjoying it the whole time.
thunderstorm.
So,
So,
Yeah. There you go.
um, the place you've
right.
lived
Yeah.
outside of the US the longest,
The
right?
Dominican Republic.
2
Yeah.
years, and was
2 years.
that was
Yeah.
a work, I assume? Huh?
No, that was a
Okay.
life
Well,
experience.
hold on,
Yeah.
you can't life experiences, that begs a follow-up question. Like, yeah, so what'd you go there
Okay.
for 2 years?
So I went as a
Okay.
church mission. So I went to the Dominican Republic on a church mission
That's
and was
awesome.
there for 2 years.
There
Awesome.
is, I know my oldest and others when they've graduated, people said, "Why do you let them go for a while before they graduate college to start the real life?" And I'm like, "It's so hard to go find
Yeah,
that block of time again." And I'd assume you can tell
that's
me if I'm
true.
wrong. It was such a great, just such a great life experience.
Absolutely. In fact, I've encouraged my kids to
Uh,
go and get a life experience similarly, whether it's, something like what I did or something else. I've told them, I'll give you so much money for college, but I'll give you a little 20% more if you go get a
Ooh.
life experience like
Oh,
that
Incentives.
before you take on any student debt. I said, you don't take out any student debt and you go take advantage of this, you can take advantage of it at any
hmm,
time. But if you take out student debt, it's off the
wow.
table.
The incentive
Oh, that's
plan,
great.
the
Yeah.
Yeah.
life experience incentive
I've done a
plan.
fair amount of.
Mm,
Right, it's a
Yeah,
life
that's great.
experience incentive plan for sure.
Yeah, and kudos to you for making a commitment to it. I've done a lot of, like, week-long sort of mission experiences, and I think I end every week going, "Boy, there's more to do here." Like, I wish I could
Yeah,
stay, but it was later in
yeah,
life. It's
right,
harder to do that. So, yeah, I
absolutely,
appreciate you nudging the children in that direction because
for sure.
the world needs it, and, it's definitely the right
man,
time to do
that
it
is
kind
so
of
awesome.
in the way the world
And
works.
then the infamous crunchy or creamy peanut butter preference.
So, like Paul, I have a son that has a nut allergy, so we don't get to enjoy peanut butter as much as we used to before he came into our lives, but it really depends. Like, if it's gonna be on a sandwich, I like creamy. If it's gonna be as a part of a dish, I like
Mm.
But
crunchy.
you've never been in consulting. That's a very
'Cause that was a
consulting
Not
very
yet, I
consultant
guess.
answer. Yeah.
You never know
Oh,
where life will
oh,
take you,
okay,
so
okay. Well, today
I hang on. I gotta
oh,
inject
yeah.
one more speed round question just because I learned a fantastic fact about Josh right
yeah.
before we started. Favorite board game?
Oh,
You're a game guy in history,
Ooh.
so like pick a favorite board game.
Favorite board game? You know, There's one that I really like right now. I don't get to play it as often as I'd probably like to, but called Castles of Tuscany. Have you heard
Hmm,
of that one?
I have heard of that. Yes.
Yeah, that one's a fun one. It's a strategy game, and that's kind of more up my alley. Although I do like the party games. Like if we get a good group together and there's some sort of a party game, I love that too.
Yeah, including just a quick plug I don't ever plug. Josh has played with his team the Novo Insights sort of conference swag, which is always
Yeah.
essentially a party game,
Yes.
as will
So
happen
so we'll
once again
have
here in
I
San
say
Antonio.
we.
I'm looking
So I
forward.
say we because I want to guarantee I get a piece of the swag. That's how I'm going to guarantee I get one. They will be at World at Work in San Antonio this year, correct? So yeah. So I say we.
Yes, yes, limited supply. We run out,
Well, you need to
so
order
people got to
however
make
many
sure
you
they get
think you
there.
need
I'm
plus
gonna
one because I
buy
need to get
early
one.
then.
Yeah.
Yes.
So speaking of World at Work, then and the swag there, you are presenting twice at World at Work, three
Three
times. Oh
times.
3
no!
times I
Oh
think I
no!
saw. Yeah,
Oh no! I missed. So I know on AI all three
Twice,
times.
twice in the skills lab. Twice.
AI's in the title every time
Okay,
though,
that
isn't
was
it?
Yeah, it
so.
is. It is. The title every
So where would you want to? So you're talking about AI three times. Sorry, bad research
time.
department. Over here, you're talking
But
so many times that by the way, the pop up window in World of Work doesn't list them all. Let me put it that way. I'll do it that way. Yeah, I got to
You have to
scroll. That's so
scroll.
operator
Yeah.
error. Um, where do you tell, there's best practices, et cetera. So there's so much going on right now. Where do you have people start in this process or the places where they want to start thinking
Mm.
about both using it and learning about it? And we'll just kind of dive in from there.
For sure. Well, I mean, the easiest way is just go out and play with it, right? I mean, grab an LLM that you like, whether it's ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Meta, Grok, I don't care what it is, but go out and just start having some conversations and see what happens, right?
Yeah.
Do some brainstorming or take an email that you're like, oh, I'm not so sure I really want to send this and pop it into Copilot or something and say, hey, can you help clean this up? Make me sound professional and like I know what I'm doing and
Yeah.
see what happens, right? And you'll start to kind of get a concept for what these large language models can do for you. I think that's a great way to start.
I'll add if people have heard, like, and I don't know if you've done this. So and they'll also be a reminder of what a grown up I am, Josh. So the way I started, and still kind of mess it, and it's kind of expanded, is I guess I'll call them AI skills have expanded on that front. Is I built 100 person,
Yeah,
is I don't know why I chose 100. I think more so I could see all the rows. That build me 100 person SaaS
yeah,
software company, standard, job architecture, average salaries, make the CEO Wile E. Coyote, and all the employees are Warner Brothers cartoons. Um, and I learned a
yeah.
lot. I think that's a great one. I preach that a lot, so I'm glad you said it because one, all 18 software developers made exactly the same money. All the customer
Hey,
support, which by the way was Pepe Le Pew for those that are out there, was led. It actually was pretty.
um,
Gemini was actually pretty. I used Gemini that time. Was pretty interesting the way it did things. So Bugs Bunny was in charge of sales. Pepe Le Pew was customer support, and I'm kind of like it was kind of entertaining. But you learned a lot to your point of like
It
all
worked.
the
Yeah.
salaries were the same. They had 50% men,
yeah,
50% women. As you added stuff like it perpetually was driving at this norm that you had to create different pieces of it to make it look like a real company. And that was super educational. I mean, it reiterated what I knew, but like right in my face. And then I was left with, when I was done, this really cool data set that like I don't think anyone's going to sue or give me litigation that, Shaggy makes less money than Scooby Doo in the development team. Like, I don't think
right.
Shaggy's going to send me a note. But like you have this cool set of data to plug in and be like, run a merit cycle. Nobody's upset. There's no real pie.
Well, I really like Gemini for that. Actually, anytime you're creating data sets, I think Gemini does a wonderful job at creating those data sets.
Hmm.
So yeah, I would use Gemini for that. And the different models definitely have their strengths, I would say.
I mean, if you
But
could sum
you
those up,
definitely went to
let's
the
be
right
fair with
one
that.
for
Like if
this.
you were going from, from a compensation professional's perspective, do you have one that you think is
Sure.
a, better place to start, easier to work with?
Um, well, so I would say ChatGPT is a good all-around tool, right? It's the same model that drives Copilot. So if you use Copilot, you could hear me interchange those pretty interchangeably. I would say Copilot or ChatGPT, pretty interchangeable. Gemini is a good one for creating data sets of plausible but fake data. If you want to do some coding, a lot of the underlying models that you use for coding actually draw from Claude, whether you're actually doing it in Claude or whether you're doing it in another model. So, I mean, those are kind of the strengths that I would say these different models have right off the bat.
Yeah. And and one, just I've recently become a Claude convert. To your point about creating fake data, I actually am just as an interesting example people can play with if they have access to Claude, particularly Claude Cowork. I actually have it running an HRIS in a spreadsheet on
Oh,
my
cool.
laptop every day, meaning create 1,000 people, and every day its homework is to randomly pick who quit and randomly
Uh-huh.
predict who got hired. So the data set is changing on me every day, which is real
Uh-huh.
life, right?
Yeah,
Like, so I've got it simulating real life via
that's cool.
AI. And as a
Yeah,
result, Sean, it's getting past the like uniform data problem that sometimes false data generation can create because it's just picking today
yeah,
what it wants to do and it's increasing variance. It's creating its own pay gaps at times. It's just fascinating to watch it operate and try to simulate an ecosystem. So you could probably
that's
do that in other tools, just to be clear. It's just I'm doing it with Cowork because Cowork was the easiest way to like schedule a daily task to just go
yeah,
execute and update, and it's off the cloud essentially. But
nice.
yeah, fun little test case, right? To see how it works.
Yeah,
What are you
that's
seeing?
cool.
So I don't think we covered at the beginning. So you're a big part of the Twin Cities affiliate.
Twin Cities Compass. Yeah, you're right. I forgot to mention that one of the other things that I'm very actively engaged in is the Twin Cities Compensation Network. So I've been a member probably for the last 15 years
Mm,
and served on committees, served on the board. Currently I'm the sponsorship chair, and I've also been the education chair, gone through the president-elect, president, past president roles. So it's something where I'm very passionate about kind of advancing the profession, and this is the way that I try
Um,
to give back.
Before we go there, I feel like such
Well,
a loser. I'm only on a board. I'm not a president or past president like you two. I'm kind of a slacker, really, in the grains.
yeah.
I
Why do we
know.
let you on this?
Well,
Why do we let
and
you here?
I highlight that, Josh, because you're around a lot of people in the comp space. What has been the number one hurdle
yeah,
for that you've seen people not wanting to dive in? Like, why aren't they testing it? Because there's always
Mm,
that you should be using it. How are you testing? Like, what's
yeah.
the cause or the pause for people to not be jumping in?
That's a tough question to answer from somebody who's actually really excited about this and everything like that. I mean, I'm somewhat speculating, but it's interesting because the first time I ever presented on AI for TCCN, I asked people to kind of let me know if they had ever, gone out and used a model. And there's quite a bit of people that hadn't. Second time, that number had gone down. And I think more recently, a lot of the people that have worked in this space are at least using some of the free stuff, right?
yeah.
They have access to Copilot or they get a free ChatGPT account. I think a lot of the hesitancy is it's just kind of like any other product, right? There's early adopters, there are people who are kind of the promoters and everything like that. Eventually, you hit a tipping point. But even then, I mean, people are resistant to change, right? So this is a change. It's another tool that they got to learn if they want to use it effectively. And just because it's out there doesn't mean that everybody gets the same results
Yeah.
from using the tools.
Yeah. I think access has been a challenge. I mean, to say
Mm,
maybe not for everybody, but some organizations
Mm.
at first were like, no,
yeah.
you may not use. And that's been an issue. I think that's loosening. I guess I can't tell, but I have no
It,
benchmark there. But it does feel like that was an issue for a while.
I mean, I think a lot of companies are concerned about their IP getting out there.
Yeah,
I know that, like, in Residio, we have a review process for any of our generative AI tools, and we've got to go through a cybersecurity and a legal review. And if we want to be able to use a tool, I mean, it has to cross a bunch of hurdles, but one of the big
sure.
ones is it has to be able to have at least an option for you to turn off that it doesn't train on your data. And
Yeah,
that's, important for us.
yeah. Which thankfully, like the not free versions of pretty much everything,
Yeah.
that's possible, right? Thank
I think that's
goodness,
like
because I
anything
couldn't
else.
live
Like,
without
Paul,
it.
I think they're
And
getting to that point where as commercials models come into place and people understand it more, they understand
yeah,
like it's not free. I'm paying for it with it learning. so that the paid
My data.
models, that aren't giving them data have data. Like I think people are getting their head
Y-
around that
Yeah.
stuff, which is super helpful.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
let's talk
Yeah.
about, there are a couple of things in your presentations. So I don't want to make it so people don't have to go.
Mm.
But you know,
Right.
what depends. Wait, are they at the same time as ours? Then maybe we'll give it all now and go.
I know at least two don't compete with mine because we talked to Courtney Schmalevsky. Listen, see how I did there, Sean? I got her name right. Josh is also a big
Oh,
proponent of the
good.
AI
Okay.
skills lab and the hands-on sort of thing. So I've got
Mm.
two there. You've got two there. So I know we
Yeah.
don't compete because they
There's
can't.
one
There's only
skills
one
lab.
AI
Right.
skills lab.
So the
There you
automating tasks is
That's
kind of
right.
what the one that actually bubbled up literally on top here, but of the two that I saw, like how
Okay.
are you seeing people kind of work their way in, and where are the tasks being automated? Um, and is it more agentic or the generative side that you're seeing people lean into leveraging it for actual tasks?
Yeah, I would say it could be agentic. I think the term agentic is I
Buzzy.
don't know. I don't know if I like that word,
Yeah.
frankly, because I mean, basically, anytime you partner with the AI, there's an
Mhm.
agent kind of at work there, right? I would call it more automation, though, when you have something that's repeatable that you don't have to set up from scratch every time. And there are a lot of ways people are doing it. You know, maybe it's a gem in Gemini, maybe it's a custom GPT in ChatGPT, or a project in Claude or something like that. I think those are very helpful. We're actually going to build something in Lovable. So we're going to
Mm.
actually go ahead and build something that will be a platform that you can use. And we're going to do it in under 45 minutes. So I'm excited about that.
That's like one, I learned something. I'm glad to know that means that Lovable will have some access at the AI Skills Lab because I am
Yeah.
in love with Lovable. And just as a primer for those who aren't familiar, it was my vibe code experimentation, right? I hear this is a thing where I can just tell it in words as a non-techie, right?
No,
Sean's an
but I'm
engineer.
a,
I'm
well,
not,
you say that,
right?
but
I
like
am not.
I'm a base 44 clown. So like, yeah, we've all
Yeah.
got our thing, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Base 40.
Same concept
Yeah.
though, right? Same
Yeah.
concept of I don't know how to code. I can't. I
No.
tell my team all the time. Like some of them can figure out how to get into the code. I'm too old for that. It is not me. I can do Excel formulas and that's about it.
Right.
Um, but Lovable is a tool. There are others, but it's the one I happen to sort of love, pun intended, that you just tell it in English what you want and it builds the app, right? And I say the word app sort of specifically. It builds these capabilities. It's a website, it's a tool, it's a workflow automation, it's a chatbot. Like all these things are possible where you don't have to know how to build,
Yeah.
you have to know what you want.
Yeah.
Like that's sort of the key difference in me. I'd love to hear your spin on that, but I think it puts a
One.
premium on knowing what good looks like and how it should work, not how to build it. And that is a big difference for non-technical people to really get into more advanced
Yeah.
solutions.
I'd say the two keys to be able to build with Lovable or any of these other vibe coding apps I've built with, Gemini's AI Studio, or, Google AI Studio, and there are other ones I know, Sean, Base 44, you're probably going to say the same thing, but it's, imagination is one of the key ingredients. If you can imagine something, I think that you already are, have a good head start. And then being intimately familiar with the problem you're trying to solve,
Yeah.
those two things will make it so that you can do some building.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm working on this white paper, which is, will AI kill comp tech, right? I follow comp tech a lot, and it's something I hear. Like, why would I buy something if I can just build it now? And I won't give away the whole thesis of the paper, but one of the key points I think is in the past, technology has been constrained by engineering capacity. Like we had lots of
Mhm.
backlogs, lots of tickets,
Well,
right? Lots of user stories to build, and we couldn't get them delivered. I think AI is making it opposite, right? Where now, in
yeah.
theory, feature delivery is relatively cheap and easy. Like we should be 10xing the productivity of engineers. It's going to flip the problem side to what do you want that actually does something of value, right?
Yes.
Which is, it just feels different, right? And the
Yeah.
sort of user vibe is features can come fast and cheap now, in theory. Like in Lovable, it takes 10 seconds to
Right.
deliver a new feature if you know what you want,
That's
right? It's
part of the
very
key,
different.
right? Can you articulate it? I will say, I've got my team using it as well and everything like that. Sometimes the difference, when we partner on something or when they're kind of off on their own, is how detailed am I about like
Yeah.
describing the vision about what I want to have come out. And, that will end up making it, go from I'm stuck to, oh yeah, now it got it. Right.
Yeah.
It's
So
interesting you say that because I think, Paul, that for me, I think the project of launching what you need to have done could be done internally. Um, Maybe faster, definitely cheaper, right? The
Yeah.
process of keeping it long term and comparable and getting leverage off other people's stuff, that is where I think the difference will come. To your point, where in the past it
Yeah.
was more about can I launch this super cool tool? And that was a huge hurdle. But now
Mhm.
it's like, how do I do that? And I still have other stuff because what ends up happening invariably will be you launch the tool, you write it in Lovable, but now someone wants changes and now you're queuing the tickets. And did you really want to be in charge of tickets and
Yeah.
outlier? And like, so I think that's the
Yeah.
piece of software development, having been in software my whole life, that people never really understood. And I think it's right. And the tickets, because they will go
Yeah.
faster by default, Paul, won't be as big of an issue for the software company as you will have them because all of a sudden you're now in the
Yeah.
ticket management business as well. Like, and who's going to do it and whatever. So
Yeah.
I think
That's
it
fair.
really is changing the
Yeah.
dynamic. And what I think is really going to change, and I don't get to read Paul's white papers before anybody else. Um, is the dynamic between vendors and buyers?
Yeah. The build versus
Yeah,
buy equation is changing is one of the sections of the paper, right? So like if I'm a small org and Residio's large, but if you're a small org, it's probably cheaper to if you need to manage your library of 300 job description, I'm just going to make that up. Like that's actually an app you can build without having to buy it. Now, there might be features that you get when you buy it that are better, more robust. Absolutely. But if it's just me and a couple of people and we just want something, $50 a month solves that
I think the
problem
eighty
if you
twenty
really want
rule
it to.
probably changes
So
too.
it's
Now that you said that out loud, I think that
exactly.
changes a lot. And so you can go from and the ROI gets harder, and it will create, I think, some downward pressure on us.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. I'm glad you're not constraining, Josh, your workshopping to like the chat bot experience. It's not just about
no,
ChatGPT, Gemini.
that was one of the things that I really wanted to avoid. And I spent quite a while thinking about it. And you talk to my wife, she'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I I used her as my sounding board for a lot of different things. And I think she was happy once I finally landed on something.
Yeah. But I do think you're the average rewards person. I don't know what that is because we're a weird average anyway, but they're familiar with
Yeah.
Gemini, Claude, ChatGPT, right? I don't like some really smart people. I will still say, "Hey, have you tried to sort of vibe code something?" And they're like, "What are you talking about?" Right?
Yeah.
Like that's a frontier that reward people are still behind, and I'm glad you're bringing visibility to that because it is powerful, and you learn a ton about what you do
Yeah.
and don't know about your problems when you try to make a robot build it for sure.
And honestly, I think it helps you to have different conversations, even with your software as a service providers, because I think you can end, having a new idea for
Well,
what's
and
possible
yeah, and
too.
that, and
Yeah.
that and that makes, I won't lie, from our perspective, software side, that's super helpful too. So we can explain the differences, etc. And again, it's just like,
Mhm.
are you explaining the finer points of a vehicle or like, hey, these four black things help the car move forward and roll like that? That different, it's a different discussion at that point. So I do think, and to be honest, you have to weed through vendors, like figuring out, is the AI perform, just look cool, or what is it actually doing in the back, like type of thing, and what's it running off
Mhm.
of is really good information for them to understand. Um, when you're talking to them. So the
For sure.
the third one listed, of course, which now I'm really upset with myself. Actually, I'll wrap myself out. I wrote down two of them, and this is going to be even worse. I wrote down your first session listed and the third one, which means I can't count to three. Yeah. So just
You
like
just scrolled
just
over. Yeah.
however people, I'll expect at least one, note back from somebody that I grabbed the first and the third, which meant I just couldn't count to three. Um, is on the
Yeah.
pitfalls piece. And so, kind of, are there one, two, three pitfalls? Again, please still go see Josh, that you
Yeah.
kind of highlight for people as they start to wander in, and how do they, either avoid them or just kind of be like, it's not that big a deal type of thing.
Right. So I touch on a couple of things that I think are pretty standard. Like I talked about the security and the legal considerations for generative AI tools. But where I expanded a little bit further is I talk about two areas that people really have to take personal responsibility for. One is cognitive offloading, making sure that you don't let the AI start doing all of your thinking, right? So that's kind of the punchline on that one. And the other is avoiding work slop. You might have heard the term AI slop kind of circulating on the internet if you're on YouTube or something like that. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of AI slop out there and everything like that. But that is something, I mean, I think really goes to the person who's creating the content or creating the output, right? Is it doesn't have to be. In fact, one of the people that I follow on YouTube from Theoretically Media, his name is Tim. He said something that one of the biggest AI skills that people need to learn, and I might be butchering this quote, but one of the biggest AI skills that people need to learn is traditional editing.
Mm.
And
Yep.
my other session that you didn't mention is humanizing your communications with AI. So I'll talk about that in a second. But essentially, if you want to create a work product, whether it's a video or whether it's an infographic or whether it's a vibe coded app, right? Test it, put it
Yeah.
through the ringer. Read through the output that you're getting on something, and make sure that it doesn't say something wild or crazy or something that undermines your credibility, because ultimately you own that credibility, and if you need to get it 80% of the way there with AI, close out that 20% to make sure that you maintain your credibility.
Yeah. I want to hear about your humanizing, because this has been a big subject of discussion within my own team
Okay.
around how, and part of it I'll share, probably more than I should, but like there's one of me, right? And we like content to come out in my voice.
Sure.
And how do you do that at scale? How do I get help with that, right? So that if we need to write something, can somebody draft a me
Yeah.
message? That's hard, right?
Yeah.
So we went on a journey to figure out, well, how do we get things to draft that sound more like Paul, or take someone's draft and make it sound like Paul? So we have a strategy, but I imagine they're similar, but I'd love to hear your take on, like, don't give away the whole session, but like, what are some things that you think people should be doing to do that?
Well, so it's a skills lab session. So you really,
Mm,
in order to get it, you got to go, right? So I'm not going to give it away by talking, about it from an overview standpoint. I'd say there's two ways, right? I mean, you can end up using Claude, which is particularly good at creating, text the way that you would write or talk about something. You can use something like Hey Gen, which can actually create a video model of you,
mm,
and you can create an avatar of yourself if you really want to output something where you're creating the content and everything like that. And you can use 11 Labs to really fine tune that voice so that you really get your voice through. I mean, basically, you could create content that it sounds like you, talks like you, and looks like you, all with the right workflow.
yeah,
So,
yeah. And what I've learned, so what we did, this is old school maybe, but this is back in early ChatGPT days. We actually took transcripts of things that I was presenting
yeah,
and articles that I had written on my own over, I mean, years, and fed it to the model and said, like, summarize, like, create the style guide for Paul, which is one really
yeah,
like funny when you read what the model thinks you are. It's like, wow, is that me? Do I really say that? I guess I do say that, because
Yeah.
it's not making it up. Like, it's learning from my data. Um, what we have found though is that the editing skill, to your point, is still extraordinarily necessary, right?
yeah,
So if someone on my team writes something, they put it in the Paul's voice robot to sort of make it sound like me.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of editing we have to do. It helps, don't get me wrong,
yeah,
but it is not a Paul replacement. Like, it does not replace my eye and my voice at all.
right.
um, it just that's not what these things do, right? It does a good job of removing the things I would never say. That's what I've learned, right? Like, that's not a Paul phrase,
What it
but it doesn't do a
replaces
good
is
job
with
of
I agree
replacing you
with
yet.
you. So, because I think I can't remember what age it gave me, but it was not good. When I put in like what age person wrote on what age would you think I was if I wrote that, was this? It was not something I want to share. But probably what you're expecting. Um, and so it does do, I think, a good job, Paul, of like when someone says, can you write an article in your voice? And I think that editing is really, really important because a lot of times, much like Google Translate is how I explained it, Paul, early, was like the translation will come
Yeah.
across and you'd be like, that's not what they're trying to say. And so I see how
Yeah.
Right.
I see what it tried to do when a, 15-year-old boy was writing an article about compensation philosophy. And so but I need a different word in there for that. Or sometimes it'll try to
Yeah.
replace actual terminology, right? And you're like, you just can't, that's an actual thing. You can't replace that. So it is really important that that goes
Yeah.
out. And so, you know, I'd rather it go out in kind of the, the wrong voice, to be honest, with good content than, the
Totally.
right voice, but, the content's awful. No,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. No, I think your point there, Josh, holds that like you
yeah.
still got to know what you want to say.
Yeah.
Refining it into a voice or in a consistent pattern, or sometimes I know when I write natively, it's actually hard to read. Like because I tend to write the way I speak, I tend to
Mhm.
write the way I talk to practitioners. Nobody understands that once you get outside of the practitioner bubble, and like that's where
I
AI
actually
is
think
good at
that's the
revoicing.
best. I
Like
think that's the
it,
best use case for it. I actually think, whether you, I think someone shared that they had, they rewrote, oh, Nancy from Cindy, I'll give her credit. She,
yeah,
she basically took some stuff and said, explain it to me like I'm in the Minecraft game. And so it does kind of take the humanization of like this really complex thing and write it. And then, of course, obviously, you have to go back and edit it for all the right reasons. But I think it can help bridge this kind of translation that's been critical of from
yeah,
comp nerd to human that has to read it. And I always come back to the comp
Mm.
planning process. To me, that's like you really have to translate it to managers, which is a different language than employees. And how do we translate that into something that is, that they'll understand? And it does do such a good job of giving you a starting point.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
Hmm.
think, the, uh the understanding gap, honestly, is something that I see. We talked to initially about kind of where I see AI taking us and everything like that. I see AI as being a real key tool at helping to close that understanding gap between, our total rewards programs, whether that be comp or benefits, and employees understanding how these things actually work.
I'll just add as we close out. I
Yeah.
think if you learn it, the cool thing it's going to allow people to do, I think, is do more modeling and think strategically. Because I can test, testing one thesis years ago on modeling out a comp planning thing could be weeks, right? Like how many Excel model, like everything. And now you're like, I don't know if I should test this model or that model. It's like, well, dude, test those two and 10 more. And, by the time you get back with your T, um, it'll be, no matter how fancy it is, it'll be, you'll have tested all those models and you can keep retesting. And so you can really test the thesis and then also what happened before because you can run back. People didn't have time to go back and say, did my comp planning thesis work? Like, drop that thing in there with some other data and see what happened. And so I think there's this
Yeah.
huge opportunity to not be replaced but and then I don't wanna say seat at the table because that's been said for 50 years, but, like, to be more strategic
Yeah.
with your comp philosophy and pay and think through it
Yeah.
more because you just it's kinda creating the ability to do that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the other thing that kind of pops out for people is, will my job be replaced by AI and everything like that? I don't think that's where things are going either. I think that the role that people will play will be a much more sort of director style role. Basically, orchestrating how AI is doing a lot of the work that you might have
Yeah.
had to do yourself a lot historically. But I think that you'll step more people will step into kind of a director role at kind
Mm,
of instructing
yeah.
AI on how to do things. So your expertise is definitely going to still be very important. Your experience is going to be important because that's where you're going to be able to give good direction.
Yeah, I stumbled upon a podcast where I was a guest, and this is 9 years ago. Sean, I haven't told you the story yet. I was a guest on somebody else's podcast, and we didn't use the word AI to mean what it is today, 9 years ago. But that was sort of like the big data era, right? That was the oh my gosh, machine learning. Like we are learning how this works. And at the time, there was this graphic, and you may remember this, where it plotted based on income along your sort of I'm sorry, income like bottom to top, right, along your y-axis, and likelihood of being like replaced by AI. along the x-axis, and there was this strange outlier in the top right, meaning a reasonably well-paid job that was likely to be automated, and it was comp and ben managers.
Mm.
So I used that for ages, and my comment on the podcast at the time was, "But that's automating the work as we know
Yeah.
it today." Right? So if you
Yeah.
think about what a comp and ben manager
Mhm.
did in 2017, I hope that's not the same work we're
Yeah.
doing in 2037, right? Like, I think it's a very negative view to assume that we want to do what we've been doing. And what I'm already seeing, and in your echoing in your exact comments, is it's just changing the work that we are doing, but there's still great work. And honestly, the stuff we all really like doing is
Yeah.
still there. It's the
Yeah.
things we don't want to do anyway
I
that
mean, you've heard me
largely can
say,
be automated, which is that's the version of the
yeah,
world
you've
I
heard me
want to
say,
live
I
in, at
like,
least.
there are like, please raise your hand if you are the overfunded, overstaffed comp department, first of all. Like, so, like, this whole in comp in particular, it's always like, you need 50, 80% of your job to be automated before you get to a normal human. So, like, like, I don't know, don't fight it so much, because that skinnying down of a comp department, that's happened like that, to the point where it's probably too lean in some cases. So I think it's a huge opportunity for them.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you were at the World of Work conference last year, they had who was the
Yeah.
economist that spoke? Her name was Linda, right? She basically, I think AI couldn't have come at a better time, because as the workforce kind of gets into a little bit more of a crunch zone for people that, I think teams are going to be smaller. They're going to still be expected to do as much, and AI is going to, I think, help close those gaps.
So with all that in mind, is it kind of so if you could change anything in HR automagically using a highly technical term that, by the way, my version of AI now has accepted as a word. And I've converted. If you could change anything automagically in HR, what would it be?
Well, I would. Um, I don't know if this is changing things specifically for for HR, but I would say this is changing kind of the way, making a mission of a HR happen, right? Is I would make it so that suddenly everybody in an organization, all the employees would have a crystal clear understanding
Yeah.
of the total rewards programs that were put in place. So, complete understanding how the benefit programs work, complete understanding of how the comp programs work, just magically, automatically, they would know. They would be like, aha, click. Because I can't tell you
Mm.
how many times, you have a conversation and you're like, this is how it works and why. And then you end up going 6 months and you have to have the same conversation about this is how it works and why.
Yeah.
Right? I'd love to not have those conversations
Yeah.
anymore.
So it's the AI that bridges the understanding gap. Now we just need to implant the AI directly into every employee's
Uh,
brain, so that
Maybe
impartation of the explanation just happens magically, right?
Maybe it can be a headband,
hey,
right?
yeah,
There's no actual
way to help and
interface,
dig out
That's
of that
probably a
hole,
better
Josh. I
idea. Yeah.
appreciate that. You only have to learn why you're in the office. Yeah, that's great.
Right.
This has been great, Josh. So this will drop before World at Work. So hit Josh up on LinkedIn. Josh Lemon at Residio. We'll tag him in the posts. You'll be able to find him. You can hunt him down in the AI lab at World at Work, but also drop him a note. He loves talking about AI and super knowledgeable, as you can tell, like
I do.
across all facets, which is super cool. And specifically about applying it in HR. So I really appreciate you taking an hour, and jamming out with us.
Thanks
All
for
right.
having
Thanks,
me.
everyone.
Yeah,
You
thanks,
drop us a
Josh.
follow, and we will catch you next time.
Thank you.